Now it's time for tonight's Kaleidoscope feature. A few weeks ago, on a secret mission for Kaleidoscope, Miranda Sawyer went back to school with Blur.
I'm standing in the small and frankly freezing yard of Colchester Sixth Form College. It's swarming with girls and with boys, and judging by their excited faces and agitated demeanour, there's more than double trigonometry on the cards. Today, some of the college's former pupils are returning for a secret afternoon gig. 4 old boys used to playing in front of thousands, as popular with 6-year-olds as they are with 60-year-olds. Britain's brightest hope for popular music in the 90s, the band is Blur.
I'm Damon and I'm the singer of Blur.
Well, I'm Graham and I play the guitar.
I'm Alex James, the bass player.
And I'm Dave Roundtree, the drummer.
And we love them. We love them loads. Blur's third LP, Parklife, went straight in at number 1. It's since gone platinum, and it's also won Best LP of '94 from Smash Hits and Q magazines. Last year at Glastonbury, the band headlined before a crowd of 50,000, so today is a Blur gig with a difference. A few weeks ago, the A-level music students of Colchester Sixth Form College were asked to orchestrate a selection of Blur's songs. The best arrangements have been chosen, and now, here in the gym, the band joins the school orchestra in an exclusive college performance. The hottest ticket of the year, and it was organised by the former music teacher of Damon and Graham, Mr. Nigel Hildreth.
Earlier this term, we decided that we were going to do a charity project, and I contacted Damon as an ex-student and said, look, would he like to come along and perhaps make a personal appearance, sign some autographs, something like that.
But I didn't really want to just come and play a gig or donate money or anything, so I thought this would be the nicest way of doing it. Keep it very, very secret. Get the students to arrange their own parts.
And to play as an orchestra along with Blur. And of course, I readily agreed to that idea.
How did the students kind of take to this idea?
Did he look at me? Did he look at you? Oh, wow. People went really mad. They seemed to give the impression of being kind of really hard, you know, drinking their beer and stuff. But we were coming out here and they held the door open. It was like, excuse me, and they were really lovely.
They might be polite and lovely now, but what were they like then?
Damon was very much a dreamer in the sense that, you know, he would drift off in terms of what he was thinking about, and he would be using his ideas very much for his own sort of motivation. It was difficult sometimes to get him to concentrate on the task in hand, is really what I'm saying. Graham, again, was a lot quieter than Damon and would work on his own quite effectively, but I think, again, he felt he was very sort of lacking in confidence about his own talents, really. Whereas I think Damon needed outside discipline sometimes to actually get himself. I shouted at Damon so many times, and he came up to me after he left and he said, you know, thank you for shouting at me. And I thought, wow, it could have either gone the other way. It could have really put him off the whole idea of performing, of doing things. But he was often sort of miles away when he was supposed to be doing a task. When he was performing a piece, he would suddenly start doodling within the piece rather than actually performing it.
I was too frustrating for him because I'm not very good rhythmically, and I just didn't concentrate enough. No. But I mean, as far as my composition was concerned, he was the one who really got me on the road.
The biggest opportunity that we gave them there at school was through the musical productions that we did, the shows that we put on, the operas. Both Damon and Graham took lead parts in those shows. And for example, Damon was Jupiter, King of the Gods, in Orpheus in the Underworld by Offenbach, with Graham as Styx, who was a commander of the Hades. In addition to that, we had Damon had a lead role in Guys and Dolls as Nathan Detroit.
When it came to doing a school production, it was a really good thing to be involved in. And if you were slightly sort of geeky and quirky like I was, it was the best way to pull birds, really. I couldn't do it on the football ground.
That performing, that love of performing, I think, was there right from, you could see it in Damon particularly, right from the word go. And he was very much the sort of person who relished the audience and was able to project his personality through an audience.
Nathan Detroit and Jupiter may well have honed Damon's lady-killing live wire performance, but according to Stuart McConey of Q magazine, Blur's success is fundamentally their understanding of what makes good pop.
They clearly understand how pop songs work. They're musically quite accomplished. By the standards of guitar groups, they're very accomplished musicians. They've listened to and absorbed a great deal of influences, mainly British. I wouldn't like to make too much of this because it seems to have been slightly overplayed, but mainly British influences from punk rock and Elvis Costello and The Jam through to earlier stuff, Maud and Small Faces and the Kinks. They're not afraid to actually draw influences from quite cookie and unfashionable areas of English music, like the stuff that was going on in the middle 80s, which is not regarded as a very much of a golden age of British pop. But they're aware of where all these things fit into a sort of a kind of musical adolescence. You get the impression listening to Blur's music that they're drawing on the stuff they've always loved, and you can almost hear a sense of them growing up in the records.
Well, we always choose the best bits of all the sort of genres. I think there are a few basic rules, and loud guitars, good tunes,
3 chords, turn it up,
big words, little words.
It helps that they're all very cute. It helps that they've got themselves an angle, a very attractive angle in one respect, which is this kind of laddish, I don't know what you'd call it, it's a sort of intellectual laddishness. They go greyhound racing, they drink, they are very hedonistic in that point of view, but they really do much more than a lot of their peers. I wouldn't say all of their peers, there are other good guitar groups in Britain, but Blur are the ones who seem to have the most nous and the most sort of native intelligence about what a pop song can be.
I'm now in one of the cosy music rooms at Colchester College. There's a piano in the corner. Over there is a pile of traditional music stands. But on this wall here in front of me, where you might actually expect to see a poster of one of the great and bewigged composers, there's a carefully positioned orchestral arrangement of a Blur song. And with me is Simon Exton, whose work this actually is, and who'll be submitting this arrangement as part of his A-level course. So, Simon, when did you find out about this Blur project?
3 weeks before the concert happened, we were told that Blur would be coming in to do a concert using arrangements that the A-level music students would have done. So we had to arrange some of their songs.
Were you allowed to choose which ones?
Yeah, well, they sent a list of songs they wanted arranged,
yeah,
and then we could choose which one we wanted to do out of the list they sent.
And which ones did you choose to do?
I chose Parklife.
How did you start going about the arrangement of Parklife?
Well, I had to listen to it about 6 or 7 times first, try and get any clue of what I was doing. It's a bit corny, actually, my arrangement, but I think that sort of went well with it. Sort of sounds a bit cheeky or whatever, I don't know. So I sort of swung it up a bit, sort of thing. The basic sort of guitar riff at the beginning sort of goes something...
is known as. John's got blue too. He gets intimidated by the dirty pictures. Oh, mate, now they're in. Who's that guy not marching? You should go down your porno, mate. Get some exercise.
Parklife is the album's title track, and it's a good example of the way the band use speech in song, a bit like the way Michael Caine turns to the camera in Alfie. On the LP itself, it's the actor Phil Daniels who's doing the talking.
Confidence is a preference for the habitual voyeur of what is known as. A morning suit can be avoided if you take a route straight through what is known as. John's got brewer's fruit, he gets intimidated by the dirty pigeons. They love a bit of him. Who's that gut lord marching? You should cut down on your pork life, mate. Get some exercise.
But it was the album Parklife that really set the band apart from their contemporaries. They finally realised the potential of their first two LPs, Leisure and Modern Life is Rubbish, with this diverse collection of slick, intelligent, catchy songs. Some said it caught the spirit of the moment. Others that it was nothing more than a clever reworking of past pop masters. Stuart McConey.
I think what's kind of original about it, and also makes it such a durable LP, one you can go back to again and again, is it's a sort of instant record collection. Too many records just plough the same sort of emotional and musical furrow, really. They're quite one-dimensional in what you can get out of them, and you have to be in a particular mood for, I don't know, very loud, heavy rock or very spaced-out techno music, and if you're not in that mood, it won't work. Parklife is a sort of expanding instant record collection in rather the same way that, say, the Beatles' White Album is, or Prefab Sprouts' Jordan the Comeback is. You'll always find stuff in there for you to enjoy because it emotionally goes up to lots of different places. It's good kind of funny and waspish songs on it about England, Girls and Boys. Is a morally neutral song about the Club 1830 experience. There's a song, Bank Holiday, which is quite simply a celebration of the English bank holiday experience, which comes 6 times a year, as the lyric says. But it couldn't have been written at any other point, I don't think, in the 1990s. It's wrong to regard them as revivalists or sort of antiquarians whose songs could have all been written by the Small Faces. They couldn't, because there are lines in Bank Holiday like, Grandma's got new dentures to eat the crust on pizza. There are references to barbecues. It's quite an intelligent song in that it's a song about an English experience, but an English experience that's been shaped and formed by all sort of modern, plastic, transatlantic phenomenon of a world that's become informed by Neighbours and the Shopping Channel and things like this, which is something that lies at the heart of Blur's music, I think, the sort of plasticity of what we take to be real life.
Grandma's new dentures, eat the crust on pizza, taken out by her daughter, because she put your butter, kids are eating Snickers, because they're so delicious, and it's sticky fingers. The mother loses her finger. Holiday comes 6 times a year.
There's also been an accusation that's pretty constantly levelled at you, though, that people don't see it as you in those lyrics. People see it as middle-class observers of working-class life.
Which is exactly what it is. But, you know, the characters aren't all bloody working class, you know. The majority of them are sort of the worst things I hate about middle-class people. You know, the only real... The references to sort of working-class culture are the cover of the album, I suppose, which is dogs, greyhounds. The image on the front of Parklife has been a lot's been made of it. It's 2 sort of rather aggressive-looking greyhounds in sort of mid-race. That actually was a detail from the William Hill shop fronts, which have a whole series of sports, sort of exciting sports. I wanted to have the whole thing on there, but it just wasn't as strong an image, so we just honed down on the dogs. But the reason behind that was a lot more to do with the inspiration coming from Martin Amos's London Fields and the sort of vulgar character of Keith Talland and all his sorts of vices, of which betting was one.
There's quite a lot of characters that are drawn in Blur songs, whether it's Tracy Jacks or whether you look at a song like End of the Century, where it seems, I don't know, I might be wrong, that there's a woman character and a man character.
Yeah.
They're obviously not you. So who
yes,
are they?
Yes, they are. That particular song about a lament for bored housewives. You know, I'm a bored housewife on occasion, so you know, that's why I like the Carpenters and things like that. I always feel as though I'm that sort of person.
She says there's ants in the carpet, dirty little monsters, eating all the mussels, picking up the rubbish. Give her effervescence, she needs a little sparkle. Good morning TV, you're looking so healthy. We all say the ones a bit alone, we wear the same clothes cause we feel the same, and kiss the dry lips when we say goodnight. And I'm a century old, it's nothing special. Sex on the TV, everybody's at it.
There are lots of people who love writing about sort of drugged up housewives. You know, Mike Leigh has one in every single film. It's one of those sort of stock sort of characters of the British genre, you know, and I like all of those. I like sort of introducing them all. It's like in any kind of traditional theatre, Shakespeare. Or just coming back from Japan in the kabuki there, they always have these set characters who always play certain roles within new scenarios, and I like that. You know, it's just a tradition, and I'd like to think that my songwriting was part of a sort of British tradition.
There are warnings of gales in Viking, North Utsira, South Utsira, Rockhall, Hebrides, Bailey, Fair Isle, Faroes and South East Iceland. The general synopsis at 1:08.
A more comforting British tradition, Radio 4's shipping forecast, is woven like a mantra through another one of Blur's songs.
A journey of the mind through the sort of the shipping forecast, starting at the Thames and going right around the country. It's always been a wonderful sedative for me to sort of close my eyes and listen, travel with the broadcaster, the announcer.
The ships.
With the ships. Imagine what's going on all the ships.
Listening to something in a language you don't quite understand, all this thing about Dogger and rising and falling and becoming good. And Blur very skillfully used that in This Is a Law to become a sort of hallucinogenic voyage around Britain that draws on not just the geography of Britain, but mentions the Queen and the lights of Blackpool Tower and things like that.
Right, so at the beginning of this one, it's got to be quite pacey. Yeah.
Right up to the last moment, Damon and Mr. Hildreth are negotiating tempos for Colchester College's big night in.
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, it's got to be. Thanks
for all coming. Nice to be back. Okay, orchestra.
audience just sitting there and watching. And when the audience just started singing along and they were free to just do what they liked and jump around.
Wasn't it a bit frustrating sitting down and playing? Weren't you wanting to be
It
out
was
in
a little
front?
bit, because you really want to get up and start dancing and really join in and everything, but it was really good just watching everybody else do it. People think, oh, you know, you like classical music, you can't be into all this sort of stuff as well. But I don't think that's the case.
I wanted to move with the music, but we were told to stay exactly still because we had this little microphone thing and we had to aim towards the microphone. You were very tempted to kind of move around with it. But it was just amazing watching them all jump around, especially Damon, you know, leaping up in the air. I just thought how much energy he had was amazing.
To the end, I enjoyed playing.
Yeah.
Because I had quite a lot of solo stuff in that.
It's just been a really, really good experience because we'd never get that experience again.
And when we went on and everybody cheered, it was like, oh, amazing. And it was like we were really part of the concert.
The orchestra of Colchester College relishing the pop star experience. The audience packing in the school gym were equally ecstatic.
And it wasn't like just music because they like talked to their audience and everything, and they obviously felt really comfortable. It was completely brilliant. It was really excellent.
Brilliant performers, brilliant on stage, Blur, excellent. Their showmanship and their professionalism is very good. It's amazing.
We weren't actually supposed to come in today, yeah, and we took the afternoon off school to come and wait outside, see if we could see like a glimpse of them or anything. And in the end, we got in, and now we're here, and we're just so impressed by it. We're really, really proud.
So the fans were clearly transported by the event. I saw one girl burst into tears when her mother came to collect her. Some of the A-level music students can use this as part of their coursework, and Mr. Hildreth's credibility has gone into orbit. But what have the band got out of the experience?
I think we'll definitely use one of the performances for a B-side in the future or something like that. Definitely. In an ideal world, I'd like them to be sort of really have sort of messed about with them. But then again, you know, I think they'll probably feel quite sort of nervous of messing around with our stuff and just wanted to sort of fit in with what we're doing, you know. But I think they're good, you know. Some nice ideas there. I'm sort of slightly disappointed that no one had a go at doing a sort of really radical version of Girls and Boys, sort of putting it in 3/4 or something. But you know, but the thing is, when I used to write, Mr. Hildreth encouraged me to write music, and Graham did as well. We had sort of small competitions that we wrote pieces for orchestras, and actually yours was absolutely insane, wasn't it?
I had no idea really about chords, so they'd end up sounding pretty discordant and mad.
Yeah, but mine was very sort of pedestrian and conservative. So, you know, I think at that age it's just the actual process of doing it that's the most important, really.
So the concert seemed to have been a triumph, but more than that, it also brushed away the cobwebs from dusty memories.
We were pretty hermit-like at school. We used to just confine ourselves to music rooms.
Like this, really.
Yeah.
Spend all day.
We're quite happy in this little room.
We have a piano and a guitar and a saxophone and a tape recorder.
There were always times when I had to throw them out of the room. No, but they were people who were interested in the improvisatory elements of music. They wanted to develop different styles of music, and we were quite keen that they should be given a certain amount of chance to do that. I remember very clearly Graham as a saxophone player, really playing quite outstanding fairly early on. Damon always improvised on pieces, and as a pianist he was more of an improviser than playing straight from the music.
He would never have stopped us from pursuing anything really within music. If we were into scary music or something, he'd try and play us the most scariest piece of music he had, like Verdi's Requiem or something it would be. If we were into rock music, he'd bring a Jerry Rafferty album in or something like that.
I mean, within his sort of idea of what was good music, he'd make an effort. But the most important thing was that it gave us a sort of a real confidence about just doing lots of different things, and we know. And I mean, neither of us are incredibly proficient musicians, but I think he was quite good at giving you the confidence to busk it, really, wasn't he?
It's a shame, really, that the A-level syllabus at the time, which they both started on, didn't really lend itself to their talent. Nowadays, you can do improvisation, you can do free composition, and a lot of practical work with the A-level. At those times, it was very much more rigid.
Yeah, so they basically... What happened in the end? Did they take theirs?
Damon failed his A-level. Graham decided that it wasn't the right course for him. Yes. I remember distinctly the exam when Damon turned up to the exam with the wrong scores for the A-level exam. He was fairly typical of him that he would just not be, if he wasn't exactly motivated towards something, perhaps he wouldn't give his full attention to it.
We had a bit of a love-hate relationship, to be honest with you. You know, he got very frustrated with me. I refused to sort of do things his way, and he refused to do things my way.
All those dirty words, they make us look so dumb. Been drinking far too much, and neither of us mean what we say. Well, you and I collapsed in love, and it looks like we might have made it. Yes, it looks like we've made it through the end.
You have a lot of input as a teacher, helping people, and you sometimes hope that they're going to go on and do things. And it's really nice when they actually achieve really great things, which Blur are doing. And so it was really nice of them to come back and work with our students and give something back in that sense to the students. And that gave me the biggest kick.
Bless you all.
Tonight's Kaleidoscope feature, Back to School with Blur, was presented by Miranda Sawyer and produced by Anne-Marie O'Callaghan.